Mr. Shoaff is remembered for a simple personal growth lesson. The person you become matters more than the job you do, because strong results begin with strong habits, strong thinking, and strong character. When life feels heavy, people search for complicated answers. They want a trick, a shortcut, a hidden door, or a perfect plan that will save them from the hard part. But the truth is often far simpler and far stronger than that. The real change you're looking for usually begins with one plain rule, one honest decision, one new habit repeated long enough to change who you are. That is the power behind Mr. Shoaff's simple rule. Not noise, not drama, not excuses, just a clear standard for living that asks you to take responsibility for your own growth. And that kind of truth can change a life. It can change a morning. It can change a career. It can change a future. Because once you understand that your results grow from your habits grow from your thoughts, and your thoughts grow from your choices, you stop waiting for life to rescue you. You start building your own rescue. You start becoming someone who does not need a perfect mood to move. You start becoming someone who can act while afraid, learn while uncertain, and keep going while life is still unfinished. Maybe you have been stuck in a season where progress feels slow and your confidence feels smaller than your dreams. Maybe you have been trying hard, but the results are not matching the effort. Maybe you have been comparing yourself to people who seem to be moving faster, winning sooner, and living louder. That comparison can wear down the strongest heart. It can make a good person feel late, small, and invisible. But the simple rule changes the game because it shifts the focus away from the scoreboard and back to the builder. The question is no longer, how fast is everyone else going? The question becomes, what am I doing today to grow stronger than I was yesterday? That question puts power back in your hands. That question breaks the spell of helplessness. That question reminds you that success is not only about results you can show off. It is about the kind of person you are becoming while nobody is applauding. It is about discipline in private. It is about recovery after disappointment. It is about patience when the answer is not here yet. It is about refusing to let temporary delays become permanent identity. A lot of people believe success is built by one huge moment, but real success is usually built by many small moments that looked ordinary while they were happening. A person decides to wake up earlier. A person decides to keep studying. A person decides to apply again. A person decides to save money instead of spending it carelessly. A person decides to stop gossiping and start focusing. A person decides to quit the habit that keeps draining energy. A person decides to take care of their health. A person decides to finish what they start. These choices may not look powerful in the moment, but together they build a life that cannot be ignored. That is the simplicity of the rule. Do the simple things well, long enough, and your life begins to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easy, but because you become stronger than what used to stop you. And once that strength is there, fear loses authority. Doubt loses its grip. Confusion loses its voice. You begin to carry yourself differently because you know you are no longer waiting for life to hand you confidence. You are earning it through action. One of the hardest parts of growth is that it does not always feel inspiring. Growth can be boring. Growth can be repetitive. Growth can be lonely. Growth can feel like doing the same thing again and again while nobody notices. But repetition is not a waste. Repetition is what turns effort into identity. Repetition is what makes discipline feel natural. Repetition is what teaches your mind that you are serious now. There is a moment in every person's journey when wishing has to stop and work has to begin. There is a moment when excuses stop sounding smart and start sounding expensive. There's a moment when you realize that time is passing anyway, so you may as well spend it building something that matters. That is where the simple rule becomes powerful. It removes the fantasy that tomorrow will magically fix today. It removes the lie that one perfect day will solve a year of inconsistency. It places responsibility back where it belongs, in your hands. Not in your fear, not in your past, not in other people's opinions. In your hands. Maybe your past has taught you to expect disappointment. Maybe you started things before and did not finish them. Maybe you have made promises to yourself that broke before they became real. that can make it hard to trust your own word. It can make you suspicious of your own energy. It can make you say, I will start Monday, I will start next month, I will start when life gets easier. But life rarely clears the path for you. Life asks you to move with the path, not after it becomes perfect. The person who rises is not always the person with the best conditions. Often it is the person who decides to be faithful in imperfect conditions. The person who keeps going when the weather is bad. The person who keeps learning when confidence is low. The person who keeps showing up even when progress is invisible. That is the kind of person the simple rule is designed to build. A person who is not controlled by mood. A person who is not crushed by delay. A person who understands that small daily wins can become a major life change. There is a powerful truth that many people never learn. Your life does not change when you feel different. Your life changes when you do different things long enough for your feelings to catch up. Feelings are real, but they're not always reliable leaders. Some days your feelings will push you forward. Other days they will try to keep you in bed, in doubt, in comfort, or in fear. If you build your life only on feelings, your life will be unstable. But if you build on values, habits, and responsibility, your life becomes stronger than emotion. You begin to rise even when you do not feel like rising. You begin to work even when the mood is weak. You begin to keep your promises even when no one is checking. That is where dignity grows. That is where self-respect grows. That is where real confidence begins. Because confidence is not a speech you give yourself once. Confidence is evidence. It is the memory of doing hard things and surviving them. It is the quiet proof that you can be trusted with your own future. If you want faster growth, stop asking for a different life before you become a different version of yourself. That is the heart of the simple rule. Work on the person behind the results. Strengthen the mind that thinks, the hands that act, and the habits that repeat. Become the kind of person who respects time. Become the kind of person who does not run from discomfort. Become the kind of person who can stay focused when distractions are everywhere. Become the kind of person who can hear criticism without collapsing. Become the kind of person who can take a hit and still keep their posture. That is how speed grows. Not through panic, not through fantasy, through inner strength. A stronger person moves faster because they waste less energy resisting reality. They do not spend all day arguing with what is. They accept the moment, work the moment, and then move forward from it. They do not need life to be perfect to be productive. They do not need every answer to arrive before they begin. They begin, and because they begin, answers start to appear. Think about a tree. Nobody looks at a tree and says, wow, that grew fast, because the real work happens below the surface long before the branches become visible. Roots take time. Stability takes time. Hidden growth matters. Your life is like that too. You may not see every sign of progress, but that does not mean nothing is happening. It may mean your roots are growing deeper. It may mean your character is learning how to hold more weight. It may mean your patience is expanding so your future can fit inside it. People often celebrate visible progress and ignore invisible progress. But invisible progress is where real strength begins. A person who learns to stay calm under pressure is becoming stronger even if nobody claps. A person who learns to manage money wisely is becoming stronger even if no one notices. A person who learns to control their temper, their focus, or their impulses is becoming stronger in ways that will matter later. The simple rule teaches you to respect hidden progress, because hidden progress is the foundation of visible success. You may feel like you're moving too slowly, but slow is not always weak. Sometimes slow is careful. Sometimes slow is wise. Sometimes slow means you are building with more care than the people who rushed and burned out. Success that lasts usually comes from a steady heart. It comes from a clear mind. It comes from patience that refuses to panic. It comes from the courage to keep going after the excitement is gone. If you have ever watched someone build a strong life, you know their story usually includes quiet sacrifice. They said no to easy comfort. They said yes to hard work. They said no to distraction. They said yes to responsibility. They repeated good choices until those choices became part of who they were. That is how the simple rule works. It is not flashy, but it is effective. It does not promise instant fireworks, but it creates lasting fire. It does not feed ego, but it feeds progress. And progress is what your future needs most right now. Not perfection, not image. Progress. There will be days when you do not feel worthy of your goals. There will be days when the gap between your current life and your dream feels too wide. There will be days when your thoughts turn harsh and you start speaking to yourself in a way you would never speak to someone you love. On those days, remember that your thoughts are not your master. You can challenge them. You can question them. You can slow them down. A thought that says, I am too far behind is not a law. A thought that says, I will always be stuck is not a prophecy. A thought that says, everyone else is better is not a fact. It is just a thought, and thoughts can be changed. The simple rule gives you a better place to stand. Instead of arguing with fear all day, you can return to action. Instead of waiting for confidence to magically appear, you can create confidence through repetition. Instead of chasing perfect conditions, you can build consistency inside imperfect ones. That is the path forward. Not dramatic, not complicated, honest, steady, real. A great life is rarely built by dramatic people who only work when they feel inspired. A great life is built by people who keep their word to themselves. People who know that one more page, one more rep, one more application, one more lesson, one more call, one more honest effort can matter more than 1,000 empty plans. That is the beauty of the simple rule. It makes the impossible feel reachable because it turns the mountain into steps. You do not climb a mountain in a single leap. You climb it by taking the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one after that. Sometimes the next step is small enough to embarrass your ego. That is okay. Ego does not build success. Consistency does. Sometimes the next step feels too simple to matter. That is okay too. The simple things are often the ones that change everything. The next step matters because it keeps you in motion. It keeps your identity alive. It keeps your dream from becoming a memory. Motion is powerful because motion invites momentum, and momentum can carry you far. You are not behind because your journey looks different. You are not weak because your pace is different. You are not lesser because your path has taken longer than someone else's. Life does not hand out the same timeline to everyone. Some people start early. Some start late. Some get lucky. Some have support. Some have to build everything from very little. Comparing all of that without context is unfair to your own story. Your job is not to match someone else's path. Your job is to stay true to yours. Learn what you need to learn. Build what you need to build. Keep moving in the direction that matters. The simple rule protects you from the trap of comparison because it makes your focus local. Not on their life, on your next choice, not on their speed, on your discipline, not on their results, on your consistency. That shift is freeing. It gives you peace. It gives you clarity. It gives you power over the only life you are actually responsible for, your own. Maybe no one taught you how to be patient with yourself. Maybe you learned to criticize faster than you learned to encourage. Maybe every delay felt like proof that you were failing. But a delay is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it is a sign that life is asking you to grow in a different order. You may want the result first, but the result is often waiting for the person capable of carrying it. That is why inner growth matters so much. A bigger opportunity can break a person who is not yet ready. A greater responsibility can crush a person whose habits are weak. A louder platform can expose a person who has not learned discipline in private. So if your season feels like preparation, respect it. Do not rush through the lesson just to reach the prize. A prize without readiness can become a burden. But readiness built through patience becomes a source of strength. It lets you handle more without falling apart. It lets you grow without losing yourself. It lets you succeed with grace. The simple rule also asks you to be honest about what is draining you. Some things are not helping your future at all. Some habits make you tired, distracted, and emotionally weak. Some people pull you backward. Some routines keep you stuck in a loop. If your energy is always leaking, your progress will always feel slow. So part of becoming stronger is learning to protect your focus. Protect your mornings. Protect your evenings. Protect your attention. Protect your goals from the noise that tries to consume them. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming intentional. A person who knows what they are building cannot afford to give their best hours to what destroys their momentum. You do not need to live in chaos to prove that you are busy. You need to live with purpose. Purpose gives direction. Purpose gives meaning. Purpose gives your effort a destination. And when your effort has a destination, every small action begins to matter more. You stop floating. You start building. You stop reacting. You start leading yourself. There's a different kind of strength that comes from deciding that your life will no longer be ruled by emotional storms. You can feel stressed and still choose discipline. You can feel disappointed and still choose movement. You can feel tired and still choose one more useful action. That does not mean you ignore your emotions. It means you do not hand them the steering wheel. You acknowledge them, then you lead anyway. This is a mature kind of power. It is quiet. It is calm. It is steady. It does not need to prove itself with drama. It just keeps showing up. And that steady presence is often what changes a life fastest in the long run. Because every time you keep going under pressure, you teach yourself that pain is temporary and purpose is stronger. Every time you finish something after wanting to quit, you become harder to intimidate. Every time you return after failure, you shorten the distance between fear and freedom. The simple rule does not make you emotionless. It makes you dependable. It makes your effort repeatable. It makes your future more likely. Sometimes the biggest barrier is not lack of talent. It is scattered energy. It is the habit of starting too many things and finishing too few. It is the habit of promising too much and doing too little. It is the habit of jumping from one idea to another before one is time to grow. The simple rule brings focus back into the room. It says, choose the important thing and do it well. Choose the next right action and protect it. Choose the habit that matters and repeat it. A focused life is often a faster life because it wastes less energy. A distracted life may feel active, but it moves in circles. A focused life may look quieter, but it actually advances. That is one of the secrets people miss. Speed is not always about rushing. Sometimes speed is the removal of waste. Less confusion, less delay, less emotional drama, less hesitation, more clarity, more execution, more consistency, more trust in the process. That is a much better kind of speed because it lasts. It is not burnout. It grows stronger with use. You may be waiting for a sign that you're on the right path, but often the sign is simply that you are still willing to grow. If you're still learning, still adjusting, still trying, still correcting yourself, still showing up, then something good is happening. Progress rarely feels like a parade. It feels like a decision, repeated. It feels like getting back up again when nobody notices. It feels like being tired and still choosing the work. It feels like choosing honesty over denial. It feels like selecting discipline over emotional chaos. That is why the simple rule is so powerful. It keeps you anchored in what actually matters. And what matters is not pretending to have all the answers. What matters is becoming reliable in the process of finding them. It is okay to be in progress. It is okay to be a work in progress. In fact, that is where strength is often born, because a work in progress is still in motion. And motion, when guided by purpose, becomes transformation over time. The people who eventually win are rarely the ones who never struggled. They are usually the ones who kept practicing while struggling. They kept learning while doubting. They kept working while disappointed. They kept believing while the evidence was incomplete. They understood that the version of themselves they wanted would not appear by accident. It had to be built. It had to be trained into existence. It had to be protected from impatience and watered by discipline. That is true for you too. The better version of you is not far away because you are incapable. It is far away because it has not yet been fully built. And that is okay. Building takes time. The important thing is that the building continues. Keep stacking good habits. Keep pruning bad ones. Keep recovering faster. Keep adjusting your mindset. Keep choosing the long view. The simple rule says that your future depends less on one giant moment and more on the direction of many small moments. That should be encouraging because it means today matters. It means this hour matters. It means the next choice matters. and that puts power into your ordinary life. You do not need to become obsessed with speed to succeed. You need to become devoted to growth. Speed without growth becomes burnout. Growth without speed can become frustration. But when the two are balanced, something beautiful happens. You begin to move with steadiness and urgency at the same time. You stop wasting months on the same weak patterns. You stop pretending that tomorrow will fix what today avoids. You stop hiding from the work. That is when life starts to open. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you become more capable of handling it. The simple rule gives you that capacity. It teaches you to keep your standards higher than your moods. It teaches you to respect what works, even if it is not flashy. It teaches you to trust the slow build that becomes a strong life. And a strong life is the kind that does not collapse when pressure arrives. It bends, learns, adapts, and keeps standing. That is the kind of success most people deeply want. Not fragile success, durable success, success with roots, success with peace, success with self-respect. So if you're still waiting for a better chance, a clearer sign, a more comfortable moment, consider this your reminder. Your life may not change because one huge opportunity lands in your lap. It may change because you finally decide that your ordinary days deserve better effort. It may change because you stop treating growth like an event and start treating it like a standard. It may change because you begin to respect the simple things that create powerful results. Read, practice, move, save, learn, focus, rest, repeat. Forgive yourself and try again. Stay consistent long enough to become different. That is how the rule works. It is simple, but it is not easy. It asks for maturity. It asks for patience. It asks for courage. It asks you to trust that the person you are becoming is more important than the comfort you are leaving behind. And that trust will pay you back. It will show up in your character, your confidence, your choices, and your future. Keep going. Keep building. Keep becoming. The simple rule is still enough to change everything. If you stay faithful to small right actions, your future will start to feel less like a dream and more like a direction. That is the real gift of Mr. Schoaf's simple rule. It reminds you that success is not magic. It is not luck. It is not reserved for a lucky few. It is built by people who choose growth when growth is inconvenient, discipline when discipline is hard, and patience when impatience feels easier. Every time you do this simple thing, you become stronger. Every time you repeat it, you become more reliable. Every time you keep going, you become more dangerous to your old limits. So let today be the day you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start honoring your own potential. Let today be the day you take the next simple step and trust it. Let today be the day you decide that your life will move forward because you moved it forward, not because fear disappeared, because you did not listen to it anymore. That is how this simple rule becomes a powerful life. And that is how you win, one honest step at a time. The reason this simple rule works is that it respects how real change actually happens. Change begins with attention. What you pay attention to becomes your language, your habits, your mood, and eventually your identity. If you stare at your failures all day, you start feeling like failure. If you stare at your delay all day, you start feeling late. If you stare at other people all day, you start feeling behind. But if you stare at the work, the lesson, the next step, and the person you are becoming, your mind begins to shift. That shift is everything. A mind that used to panic starts to plan. A mind that used to complain starts to create. A mind that used to freeze starts to move. This is why the simple rule is not only about action. It is also about focus. You cannot grow well if your attention is scattered in 100 directions. You need a clear center. You need one main question. What will make me stronger today? Not what will make me feel good for 10 minutes. Not what will impress people who are not living your life. What will make me stronger today? That question can save years. It can rescue a broken season. It can pull you out of passive living and into intentional living. And intentional living is where success begins to speed up. There is something deeply powerful about a person who decides to stop blaming the world for every delay. That does not mean the world is always fair. It does not mean people never disappoint you. It does not mean life never hurts. It simply means you have reached the point where your future is too important to hand over to frustration. When you stop asking why life is hard and start asking how to become stronger inside it, your energy changes. Your posture changes. Your choices change. You become less fragile and more useful. You become less reactive and more reliable. And reliability is one of the quiet engines of success. People trust the person who shows up. Life responds to the person who keeps showing up. Opportunity notices the person who keeps showing up. Confidence grows in the person who keeps showing up. The same simple rule repeats itself in different areas of life. Show up for your mind. Show up for your body. Show up for your work. Show up for your future. Show up for the dreams that have been waiting patiently for you to take them seriously. Some of you have spent too much time waiting for motivation to become consistent. But motivation was never meant to be your foundation. It is too emotional. It rises and falls. It comes and goes. It helps, but it cannot carry the whole life. Discipline is heavier. Discipline is slower to start, but stronger to lean on. Discipline does not care about your mood. It cares about your promise. And promises matter, especially the ones you make in private when nobody is there to applaud you. The promise to keep going. The promise to learn the skill. The promise to stop repeating the same mistake. The promise to respect your own potential. That is where the future gets built. Not in grand speeches. Not in public announcements. In a private decision to keep your word. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you gain a little more trust in your own hands. That trust becomes momentum. Momentum becomes confidence. Confidence becomes action. Action becomes results. And results become a life that once seemed far away. You may not feel ready to call yourself successful yet, and that is okay. A person does not become strong by announcing strength. A person becomes strong by surviving the days that try to take strength away. You become strong when you get up after being knocked down. You become strong when you keep learning after being embarrassed. You become strong when you stop running from your own responsibility. You become strong when you decide that your past will inform you, but it will not define you. That decision changes the entire tone of your life. It brings dignity back into the room. It puts your future back in your hands. It reminds you that yesterday was a teacher, not a prison. And once you really believe that, you stop speaking like a victim of time and start acting like the steward of your own growth. That is a powerful place to live. It is calm. It is focused. It is free. So when you listen to this message, do not just hear encouragement. Hear instruction. Let it tell you to simplify your life. Let it tell you to lower the noise. Let it tell you to make peace with slow progress while refusing to stay lazy. Let it tell you to protect your attention like it matters, because it does. Let it tell you to work on the habits that shape the future nobody else can build for you. Let it tell you that your next breakthrough may not come from a miracle of luck, but from 1,000 ordinary choices made with uncommon discipline. Let it tell you that the simple rule still works. It worked for people before you. It will work for people after you. And it can work for you, too, if you are willing to keep choosing growth over comfort, effort over excuses, and courage over delay. The moment you decide to live that way, the speed of your success changes. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become steady. And steady people go farther than frightened people ever will. Remember this today. The simple rule is not glamorous, but it is life-changing. Keep your promises. Keep your focus. Keep your standards high, even when your energy is low. Do the next useful thing, then the next one after that. That is how average days become powerful weeks. Powerful weeks become strong habits, and strong habits become a future you can respect. Stay patient, stay brave, and let consistency do the lifting.